Spoiled nephew steals all of my son's birthday gifts every year. My brother, his wife, and my 5-year-old nephew have been living at my parents' house since 2019 because of financial issues. My nephew is spoiled. He misbehaves and gets away with everything. He throws epic temper tantrums if things don't go his way. I have an 8-year-old son, and every year when his birthday party's over and everyone gets ready to go home, my nephew would collect the gifts my son received and throw a tantrum until we let him go home with them. My sister-in-law would spend an hour complaining about their financial situation and try to convince me to let my nephew keep all the gifts because he saw them. I tried to hide them in another room, but my nephew got access. I suggested making a list of the toys my son received so my brother and sister-in-law could buy similar stuff for my nephew, but they'd end up leaving with them. My son would feel devastated and sad afterwards. Not just that, but in a matter of a week, we'd visit my parents' house and see most of the toys destroyed. This year, as my son's 9th birthday rolled around, my husband said in a very straightforward manner, "Listen, I don't want what happened in the past couple of years to happen again. It's time we put an end to your brother and his wife's enablement. Your nephew shouldn't be invited if you don't want issues at the party. I'm just letting you know that if they bring him anyway, I'm taking the party over to my parents' house 3 hours away." So I called my brother and let him know that he could either leave his son at home and attend my son's birthday with his wife, or simply not attend if he didn't want to. He hung up, then called again in a few minutes. He was livid, asking if I was serious about what I said about excluding his son from his cousin's birthday. I said the reason for that is because of my nephew's behavior. He laughed, saying, "What misbehavior? He's a kid, for Christ's sake. Go ahead and name one kid who doesn't misbehave." I said that what his son does, taking my son's birthday gifts, then crying and yelling his way into leaving with them, was not fair, because those gifts were given to my son, and he shouldn't be guilted into giving them away on his birthday. My brother started talking about his struggle to buy his kid new toys, and said that him and I should encourage the kids to share. I said no. Everyone deserves to receive gifts and not be expected to share, or rather give them away. I said he and his wife are welcome to attend, but my nephew isn't. He first begged, and promised he won't let his son touch anything. But then he got angry, and said he was appalled, completely appalled by my coldness and cruelty to exclude my nephew like that. He said his son understands what's going on, and once he tells him his aunt excluded him from his cousin's birthday party, I shouldn't act surprised, because neither he nor his son will forget how I treated them. Then he hung up. My mom roasted me about my decision. She thinks I'm causing emotional damage over a few gifts. She and my dad wanted me to apologize and invite my brother's family. Am I the jerk for excluding my nephew from my son's birthday party? Yes, you are. Not for excluding him, but for letting things get this bad in the first place. To be clear, the nephew's parents are jerks too. So are the original poster's parents. But OP doesn't get a free pass. Every single adult in this family is letting a child of only 5 years old get whatever he wants. Sure, it was the nephew's parents who spoiled him, and the grandparents seem to be fine with that. But OP and her husband have been letting this go for years before finally trying to set boundaries. They don't really get to act as if they never had any say in the matter. You gave away your son's birthday presents because you didn't want to listen to a child throw a tantrum. That's pure nonsense. Also, why bother telling the brother and sister-in-law that they can come to the party without their son? Even if the party is a family event, what grown adults want to pay a babysitter so that they can hang out at a 9-year-old's birthday party? That's just plain bizarre. Plus, leaving the nephew at home means you never have to confront him about how spoiled he is. Inviting him and then putting your foot down when he throws his tantrum would set a much better example. Too bad you're too afraid of a toddler to do something so simple. Mom and her fiancé banned me from their wedding and canceled my birthday. At 15 years old, I'm the only daughter my 35-year-old mother has from her previous marriage. She has 3 children. The rest are boys aged 16 and 18. This is important to know. Last week, my mom was talking with one of her friends about the color she wanted her bridesmaids' dresses to be. My mom had been planning this wedding with her new boyfriend for the past 2 months or so. They have been engaged for about 1 year. The wedding is in December and on the day before my birthday. Me and my mom have been planning a party for me around the same time as the wedding. She insisted it was all right and that she and her boyfriend would go on their honeymoon the next day. While she was talking, I asked her when we were going to look for my dress, since she had asked me to be the flower girl. I could see the disappointed look on her face when I asked about this, which confused me. After a few minutes, she responded by saying, "We'll talk about it later." A few hours later, my mom came to me, I thought she was going to talk about the dress situation, but instead she sat me down and explained how her new boyfriend thought it'd be a better fit for their 3 daughters to lead the wedding. Whatever, I was cool with that, but it's important to note that my mom had always wanted all girls. I was a girl, but I had looked too much like my father, which caused a strain in our relationship. My dad explained to me how my mother had postpartum depression when she had me and just couldn't connect with me because of it. So when she gave birth to my 3 younger step-siblings, 6-year-old triplets who all looked like her, she was obviously overjoyed. It hurt to see, but I was happy for her. My brothers had a similar experience, but were significantly better because they looked more like her. I know this is an overdramatic thing to say, but sometimes I feel like I was a letdown right out of the gate because my mother didn't feel as connected with me at birth. After she was done explaining the flower girl situation, I asked her again about the dress because I still didn't have one. Again, that same disappointed look crossed her face before she told me I wasn't invited to the wedding, simply because her boyfriend thought I would upset his family since I was from my mom's previous marriage. Plus, he didn't like my dad. She also explained how my birthday isn't happening either, due to him wanting to go on their honeymoon right away. It turned into a screaming match, with me yelling, "I'm sorry I don't look like you enough for you to love me. I'm sorry you were too conceited for you to get over the fact I look like my dad." I was kicked out by her boyfriend within the hour because she had cried to him about what I said. All my brothers know what happened and have now refused to go to the wedding, which upset her even more, though I don't care about how she feels right now. My brothers had an actual relationship with her, and I probably just messed it up by letting my anger get the best of me. Am I the jerk? Edit 1. I live with my dad full time. There isn't any custody agreement that I know of. I usually visit my mom on my own free will or when she asks me to come over, so I'm not obligated to go over there. My parents were only married 2 years prior to having my second brother, divorcing after his birth. They dated after the divorce as a way to make up with each other. It didn't work out, but they had me. Edit 2. All my brothers are full blood. The girls my mom had are half blood. I said step because I don't consider them to be related to me, since I've never been in the room with them for more than 5 minutes, due to my mom not allowing it. My brothers were only invited because her boyfriend actually likes them. His family getting upset that I'd be there was an excuse to exclude me. I honestly don't care anymore about the situation, seeing as how my brothers have my back. As for my dad, he's been threatening to call CPS, but I've talked him out of it because I don't want to get the 3 girls involved, despite us having no relationship. Wait, back this up a minute. These people got divorced and then had another child? Is OP sure that her mother's issue is her looks and not the fact that she was born during the most toxic part of their relationship? Because that would almost make sense, to the extent that any of this story makes sense. Also, I can't lie, those edits really lost me. Why is the dad threatening to call CPS? Not inviting your own daughter to your wedding or throwing her a birthday party is definitely cruel, but it doesn't sound like the kind of thing that CPS gets involved in. And since the mom doesn't seem to have a formal custody arrangement anyway, what would CPS even do? The mom and her boyfriend are definitely the jerks here, but the whole family seems to have a couple of screws loose. Maybe this OP should be grateful she isn't going to the wedding. Too many crazies in one place. My spineless boyfriend doesn't want me to name our son after a Kingdom Hearts character. Too bad. My boyfriend and I are expecting a baby in November. When I found out I was pregnant, we agreed on an arrangement. I pick the name if it's a boy, and he picks the name if it's a girl. Of course, we could decline a name if the other really didn't like it at all. We also agreed to choose a name related to video games or the geek universe, since we both share this passion. As a big fan of Kingdom Hearts, it was obvious that the name would be Roxas. We spent a lot of time playing these games together during lockdown, and it's one of my best memories. On his side, boyfriend chose Melody for a girl, in reference to Doctor Who, since it's thanks to our common passion for the show that we met. He wasn't a big fan of Roxas at first, just like I wasn't a fan of Melody. But we had fun defending the names we had chosen, and we finally agreed. Melody or Roxas it would be. Turns out the baby will be a boy, so Roxas it is. As soon as we knew the gender, we started talking to him using his first name. And we even had a blanket personalized with his first name embroidered on it. But that was without counting the in-laws, especially his grandmother. She never liked me. Nothing personal, just that no one is good enough for her grandson. And until now, I was dealing with it. But we made a mistake by revealing the name to our families before the birth. Of course, his grandmother hated it, even more so when she found out that I had chosen it. She said it sounded like a dog's name, and that it was completely absurd to name a child after a video game. She said that we would end up regretting it. My mother-in-law pretty much agreed with her, and they ended up telling us that there was still plenty of time to change. The problem is that my boyfriend is very easily influenced, and since his family said they didn't like the name, he started to have doubts, telling me that it didn't seem very natural to him, that we could still change it, and that he was afraid that others would make fun of our son at school. But I know very well that he says that just because his family has influenced him. He ended up telling me that we would name the baby Roxas anyway, but I still feel that he's nervous about his family, and I noticed that he stopped using the name in general, either in conversations or when talking to the baby. At the last family dinner, my mother-in-law asked me if I'd changed my mind, and I lost my temper a bit. I answered that no, I hadn't changed my mind, and I wouldn't no matter what they said. What hurt me is that my boyfriend didn't back me up or say anything. He seemed embarrassed. We talked about it, and he finally told me that he didn't want to fight with his family over a name, and that maybe it would be good if we picked a more conventional one. I got angry and told him that I would name the baby Roxas at birth, whether he wanted it or not. He didn't say anything, but I can feel that he's a little bit mad at me. So I feel a little bit like the jerk here. What do you think about it? Sorry, but you're definitely the jerk here. Your husband's a little bit of a jerk because he waited way too long to care about your son being made fun of at school. In fact, you both actively decided to let your son be made fun of when you agreed that he had to be named after one of your nerd hobbies. At least the husband picked a name that can pass as normal. Melody's a great name. Roxas is not only a terrible name, but he's not even a good character. You'd be better off naming your son Scrooge McDuck or Jiminy Cricket. At least then he'd have a pretty cool character to go with his dumb name. Also, you and your husband agreed that you would change the name if either parent really hated it, so you're basically going back on your word. You say that his family doesn't like you, but it kind of feels like you're dooming your son just to spite your in-laws. Is it possible you're the one with the real resentment here? At least the parents in the last two stories just ruined their children's birthdays. You're planning to ruin every single day of his natural life. Might want to rethink that. My son used a naughty word, so I publicly shamed him and banned him from dinner for 3 weeks. In our house, we do not use profanity. This is one of our #1 rules. Well, our 16-year-old son broke that rule this morning. This morning, I had my 16-year-old son and 13-year-old daughter go on a walk with me. We do these a couple times a week, and we go a few blocks around our neighborhood. Well, when we were returning, my son got stung by a wasp. He shouted out the F word. He said a few other poo-poo words trying to fend off the sting. I felt bad that he got stung by the wasp, but that's still no excuse for shouting out poo-poo words. It took another 15 minutes to get home, and by then he said that the sting was fading, but itching badly. While I was giving him some Vaseline, I reprimanded him for his poor choices of words, telling him that he's grounded until school starts 3 weeks from now, with absolutely no privileges. I tagged him on a Facebook post to let his friends know not to bother texting or calling him because he's grounded until the first day of school. Usually Mondays are family dinner nights, so my husband was naturally curious when he didn't see our son. I told him what happened, how he shouted out inappropriate poo-poo words, and that he's grounded. Hubby insisted that our son still join us tonight, but we were already running late. I gave him a peanut butter sandwich to eat in his room before we left. My husband senses that I'm on a power trip right now, but I'm only trying to enforce discipline. Am I the jerk for punishing my son and excluding him from family dinner for swearing? You're the jerk in so many ways, it hurts to think of them all. You're the jerk for shaming your son on Facebook, and I hope someone in your family let you know that as soon as they saw your post. You're the jerk for banning your son from family dinners for such a long time over a single word. And as one commenter pointed out, you're the jerk for not knowing how teenagers work. You're leaving your teenage son alone for 3 weeks with a tub of Vaseline? Trust me, his language is not the dirtiest thing you have to worry about. It's perfectly fine if this OP doesn't want profanity in her house. I don't think it matters that much, but every parent has the right to set their own rules. But this punishment seems way over the top. Is it so hard to just make a swear jar like literally every other family with this rule? Or maybe there's another punishment that wouldn't be so severe. What do you in the comments think? Can you think of a way for OP to enforce this rule without going so crazy with it? Let us know your thoughts down below. Click on one of the videos you see on the screen now, or a Karen will sue you.